Ho ho ho! Merry Christmas! Yeah, so I needed a Santa hat, and I messaged my sister. I said, "You got to have a Santa hat lying around somewhere, right? Just a regular Santa hat, like with nothing crazy on it. Just a regular plain Santa hat." Ash, you good? Yeah, I got one just for you. All right. She brings it over. It's fucking leopard print. I said, "Thanks, sis. That's exactly what we talked about." Bring over a leopard printed Santa hat. But you know what? Guess what, Gareth? You're not the only one with a Santa hat. And does yours have leopard print and shit on it? No, I don't think so. It's just plain white. So I win with that. But let's talk about Better Watch Out, which I'm pretty sure this was a Shutter original. I want to say so, but I could be wrong. Now, this came out in 2017, and I know that I've only seen it once. So this is going to be an interesting rewatch with the whole way that this story goes. If you haven't seen this, it's on Shudder right now, so I would definitely recommend checking it out. It's like a home invasion, but like a twist on a home invasion type horror movie. And it's Christmassy as all hell, and it goes in a place that you would not expect it to go the first time you see this. So let's talk 2017's Better Watch Out. So yeah, before the movie, I watched like maybe five Christmas horror movies last night, and I said to myself during like the third one, like, should probably be doing some of these like for the holidays and shit on the channel. Just I don't know, when Christmas time comes up, the holidays, my depression flares up a little bit, so that's why I've been not as much of a presence on social media the last few days, but it goes in and out. So this was one I definitely wanted to do. So this is going to be fun. So we got this teenage girl, Ashley, and she's babysitting on Christmas Eve or somewhere close to Christmas Eve. This kid, Luke, who she's been babysitting for years. So she knows this kid pretty much in and out, but not as much as she wished she would, like before the events of this night take place. So, and I forget who the actress is. I've seen her in something before, but she is adorable in this movie, and she gives a very good performance. So does the kid who plays Luke. Gives a very good performance for a child actor's performance in the role that he has to play in this. He does a pretty damn good job. His friend Garrett, who I'm going to keep messing that up and calling him Gareth. So, Gareth, if you see this, this is your origin story. This is Gareth as a young kid on Christmas Eve and the crazy shit that happened to him before he became the VHS savior that we all know him as, Video Tasties. So this serves as Better Watch Out discussion and Gareth's origin story. So Luke and Garrett are best friends, and I love the little friendship between them. Like they really feel like genuine best friends. And Luke, is now going to make this the night that he's going to proclaim his love for Ashley, that he loves his babysitter, and they're talking, saying that they're only 5 year difference, and that Luke's parents are 5 years apart, and that it's not so inconceivable. And he has a plan. He has a plan that he's going to finally get Ashley all to himself, and it goes horribly wrong. There's much better ways at approaching this idea coming from Luke than what he goes about doing, but it's an entertaining as shit plan, I'll tell you that. I love the parents' little dialogue before they leave for the evening. And the mom, he's like holding up ornaments and stuff, and she's like, "Are you sure that you've never sucked a cock? Like even like back in college, like something like." Just the way that their dialogue together, that's a pretty funny conversation. So Ashley, the babysitter, she's going to college in like a few days. She's moving to Pittsburgh. So that's another reason why this is Luke's like last chance, that he has to finally tell her that he's in love with her and try to seal that deal. And we'll see how that goes. And for those who just love Christmas horror movies, like this movie is so Christmas that Christmas could fuck Christmas and have Santa as a kid, and then Santa could fuck his like twin Santa brother, and you wouldn't be as much Christmas as that's in this movie. Like this movie is so Christmassy, like all throughout, like Christmas music, Christmas decorations all over the house. We have carolers later in the movie. Like there is so much Christmas in this movie. So just for that alone, it nails the whole Christmas feel, like above and beyond. think another reason this movie worked for me the first time I saw it is besides like all their performances and the whole way that this movie goes, but the kid Garrett, I got it right that time. I didn't say Gareth. Garrett reminds me of a kid that I used to know, a brother of a friend of mine from like a decade ago. He looks just like this kid. So like every time that I see this kid, I think he's been in another thing after this. Can't remember what, but I can't help but think of my friend's brother, who looks just like this kid and acts just like him. So I don't know. Just figure that's a tidbit to throw in for you. I don't know how people play Santa Claus in the malls and shit like that because I'm like 5 minutes in on this video and I am hot, man. Like this fucking, maybe it's the leopard print. This shit gets your head hot like real fast. So it'll be an accomplishment just to get through this video wearing this fucking hat. We have Lucas that just pops open a wine bottle and starts drinking in front of Ashley, and she's like not having this shit. She's like, "No, you're way too young to be drinking." The first time I saw this movie, and now when I'm watching it now, I can't help but think of this joke, and it is a dark joke, as per usual. If anyone gets who this is from, points. But like how you always hear the stories about the kid who loses their virginity to the hot babysitter. Well, I was the babysitter. That's such a great joke. I think of it now. I can't not think of it watching this movie. And so Ashley's in the middle of this love triangle between like her current boyfriend Ricky and her ex-boyfriend Jay something. J Pop. We'll go. I don't know, Jeremy or some shit like that. He doesn't come into play until a while from now, so I'll find out his name. But yeah, she's like in this whole little love triangle between her ex-boyfriend and the one she's with now, and like the one she's with now knows that she's going away to college in a few days and doesn't expect things to work out. But I love the whole dynamic between Ashley and Luke. Like I think they did a great job on screen together. And Garrett too when he comes into play with this whole plan that they try to pull off here of this home invasion gone wrong. She gave up on that shit real fast about letting Luke drink. She made a whole production out of it, and now they're just chilling, watching a horror movie on the couch together. He's sipping on the bottle of wine. So she just said, fuck it, kids will be kids. Jeremy. Did I say Jeremy? If I did, kudos to me, because I can remember names from movies that I haven't seen in fucking years. Alright, so Luke just says that he's 12, 13 in a few weeks. So she's 5 years older, so she's like 17, 18 years old. So like, even in his wildest fantasies, this shit's never gonna happen between these two unless she's a pedophile, which she's not. So, I guess maybe this plan is the only plan that he did have to be able to seal the deal with his babysitter here. Now, if I recall, shit, I forgot to mute it. This movie, if I recall, doesn't have too many jump scares, but we get a stupid one. As soon as they open the door, they get pizza that like no one ordered, and Luke says it was probably my father, and she like closes the door, and we get a stupid jump scare. She just bounces into like one of those Santa like life-size statues that's right behind her that she's babysat in this house so many times that she doesn't know like around Christmas time that they put that Santa Claus statue there. It's such a cheap, stupid jump scare. Just the fact that they're watching a movie together and this 12-year-old that she's babysitting leans his head over on her shoulder and she allows that to happen is just weird, man. Like that alone, she should be held accountable for at least some of this shit that he does in this movie because she's just inviting it in at this point. And we get a great Mythbusters Home Alone scene in this movie, which is just awesome when it happens. So, got that to look forward to if you haven't seen this movie and for some reason are watching a spoiler discussion with it. Now, they're watching some horror movie on the TV, and it looks familiar, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was just a movie they shot like for the TV for this movie. But it does look very familiar. And there's some nice foreshadowing when she says, like, why would you go into the attic? Don't go in the attic. And then later on, when shit hits the fan, she ends up running up into the attic. So that's a cute little thing they threw in there. So they get a phone call from some stranger saying that I can see you. And it's interesting now rewatching this, like I said, since the first time I saw this, because now I know what's happening later in the movie. So you start to look out for clues and like little things that hint towards what's going to happen soon. And they handle it pretty well. Like you can see, but like now when you know like the twist that's coming, you can kind of see like every little like eye movement and every little thing that Luke does. You could see that he's like planning something like incredibly insane. Like this is definitely a movie that is it hits a lot harder on the first watch. On rewatches, well, I can't really say because I'm only 20 minutes in, but I feel like it's a lot more effective the first time you watch this movie. But it is a fun movie to go back and see like exactly why certain things happen. Like we just see her phone fell into the fish tank. And we know why because he made that happen so that she wouldn't have her cell phone. So you could see like the little hints and stuff towards the whole little twist that comes after the home invasion, quote unquote, that we see here. Luke knows Taekwondo. So Garrett, the best friend, makes his appearance and he just charges through the front door and tackles Luke to the ground and scares the shit out of them. Garrett is a dick. And then this is when the home invasion is about to begin. So count your fucking reindeer. Here we go. Now this will sound kind of dickish, but her whole plan is I'm going to go upstairs with this knife, and if you hear me scream, dial 911 on your cell phone as a text, and it'll go right to 911. Sounds good to me. Like, if they're 12-year-old kids, sure, we'll stay down here. You go check it out. And if we hear you scream, sure, we'll definitely dial 911. I don't know. And then they go up with her. So that was like a whole, just like pointless thing to say because they both follow her upstairs. So no one wants to listen to Ashley with her brilliant ideas. So in classic home invasion fashion, the phone lines are cut. The cell phones aren't working. Garrett's phone isn't working. He makes a comment, my phone always works here. And there's a brick thrown through the window that says, leave and die. So shit's about to get real. I do like Ashley's coined phrase here when she tells Garrett to try to connect to one of the other Wi-Fi's, but they're all locked. And she just use your techno magic. And he's like, I don't know what that means. It's a nice little term, techno magic. I'm going to use that. Now, Gareth, I knew that was going to happen. Garrett goes running outside the back door. He's like, I'm getting out of here. And we see him get shot, like supposedly. We find out later it's all bullshit. But you do see like a bullet hit him, or at least see like blood like fly off of him. So who did that? Like Luke is with Ashley. So I wonder who did that. Or if that was just a mess up by the writers and stuff and they didn't think about that. And said, well, Luke is with Ashley, Garrett's running outside, who's shooting this kid? So there's no explanation for that, as we find out later. So I don't know if that was just an oversight, but Garrett is supposedly shot and dead. And this little psycho kid Luke, man, he's one hell of an actor. And I don't just mean the guy playing him in the movie, I mean the character of Luke. He's one hell of an actor. He's acting terrified and everything. Like, he really looks shaken to the bone. And once we see what happens when this all comes out into the open on what this plan is that they hatched to try to get Ashley to fall in love with Luke too, like, none of this plan works on paper in any way, shape, and form. Like, none of this. Like, how this was supposed to finally get him in with Ashley, I mean, there was literally like a million other plans that you can think of. Besides, let's pretend that a home invasion's taking place. Then, like, basically kidnap her in their own home. I don't know. I don't know how that helps him in any way, but it really doesn't matter because it's very well done. Speaking of before with the Santa Claus mall workers, I guess they just get used to it because honestly, I haven't felt hot in like minutes. So I guess you just get used to wearing Santa hat all the time. But tell you one thing, you don't see any Santas at the mall with cheetah print fucking Santa hats. So I win over all of them. Again, thanks sis, because this is exactly what we spoke of. And her name is Ashley, my sister, so it works out that Ashley is the main character in this movie. So for this, Ash, I'm going to just pretend this is you throughout the whole movie. It's a very well shot movie too. Like, it's a very good looking film. Like, just looking at it and the cinematography and stuff, like, it's a very well made, put together movie. Which I don't hear this movie talked about too often. Like, maybe a few years ago when I first saw it, I know I didn't see this in 2017 when it came out, but maybe a few years ago is when I saw this. I don't want to say last year, even though I'm thinking that. I'm pretty sure it was a few years ago. Like, maybe 3 years after it came out, 2020, something like that. But I'm surprised it took me this long to get back to rewatching it because I actually really enjoy this movie. So Garrett, like I said, is supposedly dead, and Lucas goes to get his father's gun to try to protect Ashley and protect his household from these intruders, which we find out, dun dun dun, the twist here that it's Garrett running around the house with the shotgun, and that it's Lucas's dad's hunting gear, and they've staged this break-in to try to scare Ashley and have Lucas be like the hero and save the day, and then she's gonna fall in love with him like he is with her. Like I said, so many plans that they could have thought of that are better than this, like in every way. But this is where his mind went. This is the plan that he went with. So we're gonna have to just ride it out. Like Santa's sleigh on a Tuesday. It's Sunday, but fuck you, whatever. I don't know if this was intended, but when they're hiding in the closet together and he has his father's gun, he's like, "Don't worry, I'll protect you," while he has the gun pointed right at her face. And she has to, like, move the gun away from her face. Like, I don't know if that was intended, but that's funny as shit. Almost like a Pulp Fiction Marvin scene when John Travolta, Jules just ends up, not Jules, fucking Vincent, when he like accidentally shoots Marvin in the face because he's pointing the gun at him. Like, almost expect that to happen. Like, it's like, "Don't worry, I'll protect you." And then I would have laughed hysterically if he accidentally pulled the trigger and her face blew off. Like, but then we wouldn't have a movie. So it's a missed opportunity. Now, Ashley's reaction here when she finds out that Garrett is the one dressed up as the burglar or home invader, it's well done. But I feel like if that was me, I would have reacted so much more than this. Like, she's just like, "Oh, you're going to stage a break in and what, pretend to rescue me? Like, stay right here, Garrett. I'm calling your parents, and I'm calling your parents, Luke." Yeah, she does handle it well, but I would have been so furious. I would have been beating the shit out of these kids. Like, seriously? Like, pretend that there's a home invasion going on and pretend that her life is in severe jeopardy just to come out and say this is just a prank by us? Like, a prank? Are you fucking serious? Who does this to somebody? I mean, yeah, he's super in love with her, but then she ends up running away, and he ends up smacking her from behind as she falls down the stairs. And this is when Garrett's not on board with this whole plan. Like, Luke hasn't really told him 90% of the plan that he has for her for this night. So he's like very hesitant through all of this, and rightfully so, because this kid Luke is a friggin' psychopath, man. And like I said, he plays it so well. Like, he really does a good job, the actor, playing this role. Like, just going from the innocent kid in the beginning and making that believable to just becoming this just psychopathic kid. And he does a great job with this performance. And just the dialogue between Garrett and Lucas throughout this whole movie, of just them, they really sound like kids. Like, with their dialogue between each other, like when Ashley wakes up and she's tied to the chair, and then he's rolling around on a scooter, Garrett, and they start saying like "fuck, marry, kill," and then start talking about like the bubblegum kingdom and stuff. Like, it's shit that you would expect like 12-year old boys to be talking about. But it has like that sinister edge to it because you know that some crazy shit's about to happen. And I love that Garrett gets from Lucas an Oxycontin, and he like falls onto the bed, and he's like, "Everything is like marshmallows everywhere." He's like, "Maybe I shouldn't have given you a full dose. I should have given you half." Like, Garrett gives a great performance too. Like, everyone in this movie does a great job. And the fact that throughout the movie that Luke is more like worried about like if they mess the carpet up or like fuck up the hardwood floors and that his parents are gonna kill him while he's taking his his babysitter captive in the house, and just more and more crazy shit that starts to happen. He's more concerned about messing the house up and stuff for his parents. Like, awesome. And just the whole little addition of Luke drawing a face on her duct tape gag, just for like a minute and a half later to take the gag off completely. So it's like there was no need for that. But just like that little addition, knowing that he is going to ungag her in like a minute or two, fucking awesome. Like, nice little addition that shows just how crazy this kid is. That he knows he's taking that gag off, but let's just draw a picture of a mouth on it just for to get kicks out of it and just for shits and giggles for like a minute or so. Like, plays into him being a psychopath kid. Like, it really like is a nice little addition there. Now, if you ever find yourself in a situation like this, if you're a female, or even if the roles reverse and you're a male babysitter and you're for some reason babysitting a younger female, which I just think is a weird situation as it is. But first thing I would do is, all right, pull the trigger, shoot me. Just call his bluff, just 100%. This kid is not just going to shoot you in the face and kill you. It's going to mess up his entire plan, and there's no way that forensics aren't going to put together that it was not a self-inflicted gunshot wound, that it was shot from a certain distance, that somebody indeed shot her. Like, you can go down that whole route. So, first thing off the bat, just call his bluff. Be like, I'm not saying a fucking word to you. If you're going to shoot me, shoot me. And see how long it takes for him to actually pull that trigger. The answer is never, because he's never going to do it. And then he mentions that it's amazing what you can get on the playground today, and he holds up like a Visine bottle that supposedly has like, I'm guessing, like roofies in it, and that he's going to get her to drink it so she doesn't remember that night. But if his whole plan is to like get her to fall in love with him, I don't know how forgetting the entire night is going to help him towards that goal. Like, none of this plan makes sense when you break it down like I usually do with movies. But it is a great story. Like, it really is. And I love Garrett's little one-liners that he throws in. That he says, like, they were saying, like, something's terrible or something. And he's like, yeah, so is something in West Africa. And he's like, by the way, I'm going to need that paper done. Like, it's due on Monday. Just those two little lines thrown in there, like, during this whole situation going down, is so funny. I also like how well the tension builds between the two friends, between Lucas and Garrett. That Lucas says flat out right at the beginning here, that's like, you do not touch her. Like, she's mine. I'm in love with her. You do not lay a finger on her, he says to Garrett. And then just the way that the tension between them keeps building as the movie goes on until we get a sad fucking scene like a little later. But the way that they play off each other, and Garrett is kind of the voice of reason here, like, obviously excluding Ashley. But he's the hesitant friend who knows that they are way over their heads here in this whole plan that Lucas is kind of going with on the fly at this point, and keeps continuing to go improvising as he goes along, as shit keeps happening that he didn't expect to happen. And we keep having Garrett chime in like, this is getting a little too crazy, like we're going to end up in jail, and the way that Lucas manipulates him, and then talk about him not really being his best friend, and that Ashley says he uses you and manipulates you. All very well done. And the fact that they plant that seed very early on here, that they're playing truth or dare, and she asks Lucas and says, did you ever tell Garrett that you killed his hamster? And he's like, dude, what the fuck? Like, why would you lie to me about that? So already planting that little seed to try to turn them against each other. Smart on Ashley's part. And that rhymed. And already Garrett's like, yeah, like, this isn't as fun as you made it sound like it would be. Like, I'd love to hear the pitch that he gave Garrett about this night. We're going to take my babysitter hostage and shit. It's going to be a blast. Like, and I would love to just hear that whole conversation. And the way that he convinced Garrett that this would be one hell of a great time. Like, I wish that was a deleted scene or something. Absolutely hysterical. And then he says, like, you know what they do to white kids in jail? Like, I love Garrett in this movie so much. Now, there is a little bit of overacting on Luke's part. I forget the actor's name. There is a little bit of overacting, like, here and there throughout the movie, but nowhere, like, near so bad it takes me out of the movie. Like, just a little bit of, like, he kind of overacted with that line. He kind of, like, delivered this line a little hokey and stuff. Just small little things like that. Like nothing that detracts from the movie for me in any way. So the doorbell rings, and again, call this kid out on his friggin' bluff. Like, yeah, they put the gag on her. You could still make some noise. And we find out it's the boyfriend, Ricky, who comes over to visit. Scream. Just keep on screaming, kicking, knock over whatever you can because this kid is not going to point blank shoot you. Like, he's not. Like, we see him continuously over and over again try to avoid flat out hurting her in order for this whole plan to fall into place and for him to keep improvising this plan and make it like they didn't do anything wrong. So if I were her, just keep thrashing about, making as much noise as possible. He's not going to shoot you. He's not, because then how is he going to explain that shit? Like, he's not going to be able to, and he's going to go to prison. So, I mean, yeah, she's terrified. She's in this situation that she never in a million years thought that she'd find herself in. And especially that she's been babysitting this kid for years. And that she thought that she knew him, like, in and out. But he's not going to shoot you. So just do whatever the hell you can to get out of there. Like, number one priority. And the way that Lucas is carrying on with the boyfriend Ricky and saying, like, every time he tries to move in this house and try to find Ashley and he's screaming out for her, it's so obvious this kid is hiding something. Like, it's so obvious. And, like, I love how Garrett comes out of the kitchen, like, after she makes a noise and he's like, I got him. Like, the rat who's a fast fucker. Like, quick thinking on his part. But, like, then Lucas starts throwing in that, like, it's not just, like, she's embarrassed to see you. She has cramps, like, menstrual cramps, and she's laying down upstairs. She'll, like, come back tomorrow. Like, everything that he's saying is such obvious bullshit. And I like how Ricky knows that, and he keeps looking for Ashley no matter what he says. Like, doesn't matter what this kid starts spouting bullshit out of his mouth. He doesn't believe him for a second. And that was a good decision, instead of just making him a complete moron and falling for anything that Lucas says. The scene when they're upstairs and Lucas grabs a baseball bat from his room and we get the shot of him like holding the bat behind Ricky and he sees glass on the ground and he's like, dude, what happened? And then he just smacks Ricky in the back of the head with a baseball bat. Then he starts like singing into it like a microphone and starts dancing and celebrating. Then he realizes that he didn't really knock him out. And like the reality starts crashing back that like, shit, I'm a 12-year-old and this is like an 18-year-old guy. Like, I'm fucked if I don't get the upper hand here. I like that too. Like, really cool how that's thrown it. Then Garrett comes up with the shotgun. And again, call this kid out on his bullshit. This kid is not going to just point blank shoot you with a shotgun. But he falls for it. And he just like gets on his knees and shit. And they end up tying him up. Like, I don't want to keep repeating it, but call their bluff. These are 12-year-old kids. They're not just going to point blank shoot you. I mean, we see something later that kind of contradicts that, but it's not Ashley or Ricky. So, I don't know. That would be my first plan and only plan, and stick to it like a motherfucker. Just call them out on their bluff. All the way into the wee hours of morning, no matter what happens. Smart kid, though, Lucas, man. Like, as soon as he knocks out Ricky for good, after Garrett's pointing the shotgun at him, he's cleaning up the blood on the floor. He's cleaning up the baseball bat. He takes the flowers Ricky brought for Ashley and starts putting them down the garbage disposal. Like, which I hope he's smart enough to, like, empty out the garbage disposal after that, because if not, cops are going to fucking look everywhere and they might find those flowers in there. So I don't know if he thought of that, but he thinks of pretty much everything in this movie. So he's like an evil version of Kevin McAllister, like just a complete psychotic version of Kevin. And if you want to reference Kevin McAllister, I mean, we can call into question how mentally sound that kid is. After everything he did in the first movie and then the second one, he ain't all there either, but at least he's smart as shit too. Like, this kid actually thinks of pretty much everything, like, as this movie keeps unfolding. And then again here we get to see more discord between Garrett and Lucas when they bring up the fact that you don't want us to get out of this. Like, you texted Ricky to come over. Then Garrett asks him point blank, like, did you? And he's like, no, I didn't do that. Why would I do that? And like the way he says it too is great. The way he delivers those lines, like, I didn't do it. Why would I do that? And then Garrett goes to grab the phone, and then again manipulates him and says like, listen, I was going to tell you, but you showed up 15 minutes early. I had to think on my feet. Just I love how they keep bringing that into play and trying to play Garrett against Lucas. Now Lucas is trying to get the ex-boyfriend Jeremy to come to the house also. And she actually does what I've been saying. Just she calls him out and says like, you're not going to shoot me. And he ends up not shooting her. So like she should have just stuck to that from this moment forward. Once she saw without a shadow of a doubt that he is not going to just kill them flat out. She should have just stuck to her guns, and no matter what he says or asks her to do, just shoot me because you're not going to. And worst case scenario, yeah, you get shot and die. But at least this kid's going to prison forever. So, like, you kind of win, even though you're dead. Not the best Christmas present, but I've gotten worse. And I love the line when Lucas goes and calls Jeremy, the ex, on his own. And says, like, listen, I'm calling for Ashley. Like, he's making the call for Ashley. And the guy just says, like, there's no Ashley here, dude. Take care. And hangs up. And he's just like, what a moron. Like, how did you ever date this guy? Like, and then he calls him back and says, like, no, I'm here with Ashley and she wants to talk to you. There's some good, like, dark humor in this movie. Just the line of Lucas saying to Ashley and Ricky, now, I want to watch the two of you fuck. I don't know, man. Just coming what's supposed to be a 12-year-old boy, there's something just so sinister about that. Then he says, like, God, relax. I'm just kidding. Like, I'm not a pervert. But just the way he delivers that line, it sounds so eerie and creepy coming from a 12-year-old kid. Then Garrett ends up smoking a joint, and Lucas thinks it's Ricky's piss that, like, reeks, because he ended up pissing himself when he's pointing the gun at him. And now, like I said, he's more concerned about his parents coming home and smelling pot in the house than this whole dual kidnapping that he has going on in here. And then he forces them to smoke some of the pot so that way it's in Ricky's system, so it can explain away the smell. But again, this kid has to prioritize a little better because I think marijuana smoke, being smelled in the house is the least of his concerns going on right now. Now, this scene is awesome, and you don't see much, but Lucas wants to do a test, Mythbuster style, on Home Alone and see if the paint cans would just knock them backwards or if it would just kill them outright. And he ends up throwing one of them paint cans tied to the banister so it swings and just misses him, Ricky. Then he throws the second one and it just smashes into Ricky's face and just like explodes his face apart. And it's cool how they shot it with like the paint dripping down his leg, the yellow paint, and then you just start seeing the blood start to like drip down too. Really cool. And I love how Lucas comes down like, oh, did you just see that? His head fucking exploded. Like, it is a funny scene, it's an effective scene, and it's a nice little callback to Home Alone. And now we know once and for all that that movie was bullshit and that they wouldn't have been knocked back by the paint cans. Their faces would have exploded into nothingness. So, Mythbuster on Home Alone in a Christmas horror movie. What more can you ask for? And just the reactions from Ashley and Garrett after they see this paint can smack Ricky right in the face and his head explodes. Just their reaction. And again, you could see in Garrett's eyes and his reaction, they're like, holy shit. Like, now we just fucking killed somebody. Like, we're going to prison forever. Like, I love his reaction in that scene. And Ashley got out of the chair just in time, but not in time enough to save Ricky from the paint can. And she, like, says, I'm going to shoot you. And then he says a responsible parent keeps the ammo separate from the gun. So it's been empty this whole time. Kind of reminds me of Devil's Rejects when Baby saying to shoot her right in the ass, and then she's just saying there's no fucking bullets in this thing. It's all mind power. Reminds me of that. And very well done. And when Garrett is fighting with Ashley outside trying to get her back in the house. And this is like, of course, he didn't do really anything wrong. He's just following Lucas. But and peer pressure and all that, and supposedly it's his best friend, so he has to stick by him and all that shit. But I love as soon as like he gets hit in the shoulder, he goes, "Ow!" like he's the biggest pussy in the world. He can't handle like a shot to the shoulder. Like that's so funny. And what would be a Christmas movie if we didn't have Christmas carolers? And she escapes from Garrett, and out of pure luck, she trips and like hits her head. I think it's on the brick from earlier, but she falls and just like knocks herself unconscious right behind a car that's like right across the street from the Christmas carolers. So that was 100% luck on the universe's part of just like trying to keep this plan in motion, because that's like a 1 in a million chance that she's going to fall and knock her head and go unconscious right like 20 feet away from a whole bunch of Christmas carolers. So he didn't plan for that shit, and there's no way he could have. Just the fact, too, that Lucas is wearing the most Christmassy of Christmas sweaters, you might as well have thrown a leopard print Santa hat on him, because he's just wearing all the Christmas in this movie. And now Garrett goes off saying, like, you didn't have to kill Ricky, like, you didn't have to kill someone. And he has the balls, Lucas, to say, you killed him by smoking that joint in the house. Are you serious? And then he goes on to compare this situation to something that happened in fourth grade when he missed class. Garrett missed class, and Lucas was able to convince the teachers and stuff that he stopped some vandals in the locker room. He's like, who's the one who pulled that off? Me. This is a much different and much different situation than missing a period in school, like by a long shot. So, not a good analogy, Lucas. So now Jeremy, the ex-boyfriend, arrives at the house. And again, like this guy would listen to this kid and the weird ass requests that he's making. He's saying that Ashley wants to see you, but she wants you to apologize first. And he's like, for what? And he ends up giving Jeremy a piece of paper and a pen and saying she wants you to write it down. Like, this guy is out in the backyard, freezing. Like, it looks like it's mad cold out. There's snow all over the place. And this guy is just going to accept that he has to write a long-form letter with an apology for something he doesn't even know what he's apologizing for to Ashley, and doesn't find this suspicious in the least bit. I don't know, man. I mean, they portray him as kind of like a stupid guy. So, I mean, I could see it, maybe. But then he ends up writing the letter, and this is his evidence. So now he's trying to frame the ex-boyfriend for killing Ricky, the new boyfriend, and then hanging himself, which Lucas proceeds to hang him from the tree in the backyard. But he uses like a fucking lawnmower or some shit to like pull and like gain traction on the noose and stuff, so it lifts him up. And this whole movie he's talking about making noise and stuff, yet he's running a fucking lawnmower at whatever time this is in the night. I don't know. This whole scene is kind of stupid. But the fact that this guy even goes along with writing a letter is insane. Now they have Ashley tied up with Christmas lights. So, I mean, even if she dies, she gets to go out in a spark. And for a split second, that hanging scene with the ex-boyfriend, the way that Lucas just comes up behind him, throws the noose over his neck, and kicks him off the swing, and he falls forward and starts hanging before he rides the thing and like brings him up into the air. Kind of get vibes of Mario Bava's Twitch of the Death Nerve. The opening kill in that with the old woman in the wheelchair. How she like falls forward off her wheelchair and she's hanging like that. I mean, it's so small, and I'm sure it wasn't intended, but it reminds me of the opening to Twitch of the Death Nerve. Damn, man, this scene's a gut punch. When, like, Garrett is talking with Ashley, and this is when she starts bringing up and saying that, like, he's not your friend, he just manipulates and uses you, and he starts cutting the light, Christmas lights to get her free, and Lucas comes in and just shoots him with the shotgun, man. And he goes flying, and like did not expect that when I first saw this. Then he's just like saying, I told you not to touch her, like why'd you make me do this? And then he shoots him again with the shotgun, kills him dead. Like, that's some harsh shit, man. And then he starts saying, like, he's starting to get on my nerves anyway. Like, this kid has completely lost all touch with reality. Now we get this whole little dialogue between Lucas and Ashley, with Lucas saying that like he remembers when his mom used to tuck him in at night when he was younger, and that she always felt so safe that he would like never let her go, and like now she doesn't do that anymore, and he wonders why. And Ashley, manipulating him in a pretty clever way, says like I know why, and then just goes silent and shuts her eyes. And he proceeds to, it looks like slit her throat or stab her in the throat, but as we find out at the end, she's alive. You would think the most crucial part of this plan is make sure she's dead. Like 1,000% over. Like make sure this girl is deader than dead for this whole plan to work out in his favor. And it's the one thing that he messes up. Like it's he's shown already it's not hard for him to kill people. He already killed two. And I don't know, that whole thing there that he tries killing her and thinks that he did, and then just for her to be alive, you would think that he would make damn sure that she's absolutely dead. So a lot of smart decisions on his part, and moving forward and having to improvise this plan as it keeps unfolding, and shit just keeps happening he didn't expect, but kind of flopped on the biggest part of the plan here. And then we get the cleanup, which again, he thinks of pretty much everything. He's putting paint on the ex-boyfriend who's hanging from the tree in the backyard, and putting his fingerprints on the shotgun, and goes all around the house planting fingerprints on all the right things that he's supposed to. Like he pays attention to every single little detail here, except for killing the girl the right way. Then good on him too. He forgets with, and I don't know how this kid kept all of this straight in his head to be able to not mess up at all. But he forgets that he stabbed Ricky in the face and made a hole in his face with a pencil. So he like gets ready for bed and he's like, shit, the hole. And he goes down and he dips the pencil and stuff like into the paint and like plants the fingerprints from the ex-boyfriend, and seemingly has thought of everything. Again, except for making sure that this bitch is dead, 110%. I also forgot to mention, and I don't even think I noticed this the first time I watched this, but we have Virginia Madsen in here as the mom. I mean, we only have her for the first, like, 2 minutes of the movie, and then right at the end here when the parents come home. But she doesn't even look like Virginia Madsen, so that's probably why I didn't even notice. But I saw her name pop up. I said, that's fucking Virginia Madsen? That looks nothing like the Virginia Madsen I know. Now, something he didn't think of that I just thought of is he was putting the pencil over his doorknob to show that he was inside the room the whole time. Smart thinking. But then he can't get it to stay from the inside of the door, so he has to go into the next room after putting the pencil on the doorknob. He has to go in the next room and then walk along the roof of the house and go into his window. Now, his feet would be covered in snow, and they'd at least be cold. Like, his feet would be freezing. Like, he's out there for like 5 minutes or so. But he didn't even think of that at all. Like, if they thought, like, what if they checked my feet or something? Like, they're going to say, why is it so cold? You've been outside. I don't know if they would even go down that route and check his feet. But just something, if you're pulling off a plan like this, you better make sure every goddamn thing is covered. Like, every single thing has an explanation that goes along with your version of the story. If not, you're screwed. And then just imagine being these parents coming home and finding the guy tied to a chair with his face exploded from the paint can, and then just finding just death all over the place. And the first thing they do is run up like, Lucas, Lucas, and then they find that he's all right. And then we see them taking off the ambulance, taking Ashley away, and she gives one fuck you to him, knowing that his plan did not succeed. Stupidly, like I've said a few times, that he didn't make sure she was dead. Like, that's the biggest oversight that you can possibly make. Then we have credits real quick, and we have a mid-credit sequence of him saying, like, Mom, I think we should go visit Ashley in the hospital. Implying, I guess, that he's going to go to the hospital and try to kill her off that way. I would like to see some sort of sequel to this. I don't know how they do it, or it doesn't even have to have the same storyline or follow these characters. They can, I don't know how they would do it, but I would like to see this like universe created in this movie expanded upon, or like even just see like what happens to Lucas after all of this. Probably not enough for a full movie, but even if it's a short, Like just something to like show, did he go to prison? Did he get to the hospital and kill Ashley and his whole story worked out? Almost 100% sure it did not. But who knows? I mean, she is pretty injured when she's taken into that ambulance. So you would think, though, the first thing she would say to anybody, the people in the back, the paramedics in the back with her, first thing that she would say is that fucking kid did all this. Like, the first line that she would say to anybody would be that. Would be like, it's the kid Lucas. He killed everyone. And then that would just immediately just dismantle his entire plan. But that's Better Watch Out 2017. It is such a fun Christmas movie, horror movie. And I say this all the time, if you haven't seen it and you made it 45 minutes into a spoiler discussion, definitely check it out because it is a fun little time. So we have the Midnight Society, me and the cat, Pat, at 8 p.m. and we're going to be talking about the movie 2016's The Monster. And then on Christmas night, we will be watching Martyrs, the most Christmassy film, if you really think about it, to watch on Christmas night. So we will be discussing Martyrs on Christmas night and The Monster in a few hours at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And wherever you guys are from, hoping you're having a merry morning, afternoon, or night, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.